Hi guys, how you doing? I hope well. Please support me and Jerry, subscribe and like this video. Thank you so much. And we start. First story from Throw Rack Rib. My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one. I, 31M, and my wife, 29F, had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth, and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full-time, I've had to work increased hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision, and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my MIL and her best friend, Jessie, 29F, name changed, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Jessie is a SAHM with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried not to take it personally. During the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still at the house. I didn't think much about it, said hi to her and my wife, and then went to go check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you. Definitely a sign." I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately, my wife started crying, and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has PPD and am not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Neither of these things are true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her PPD while supporting our family. And I think she looks great how she is right now. She just hasn't wanted to have sex and I haven't pushed. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded, and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually, she left, and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down by my wife and tried to talk to her about what's been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we'd talked about how good of an opportunity it was, and she agreed to letting me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the OT. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple weeks, and the project is over. I actually scaled back and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burnt out trying to do everything and becoming resentful because in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project? Or I have to run errands one day? Or if I have a business trip? Am I going to come back every time to accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple times, but my wife tells me it's not the time and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings, but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. Update 1. That night I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything, just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. Next day, I got home from work and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers scattered. I don't see her, but her daughter's in her room crying. My wife left her alone. Her cell phone's off. I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one's seen her. I'm starting to get worried, and I call my mom to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mom can get home, my wife gets back. Jessie's driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior. But my wife does. She's clearly upset, been crying. I ask what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me that I'm being unfaithful and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I try to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and she hit me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did and sat down on the couch and went comatose, just stared at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door. Called my mom to tell her what happened, she was already on her way, and my MIL to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter, and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad and then went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while, and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her, but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, with the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital, but I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. My heart's broken because I know this isn't my wife. This is a sickness in her mind. But I need to keep myself and our daughter safe and give her the space to recover. I'm hoping that this is the right decision. Update 2. My wife passed on early Monday morning. Convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have, she had a mental break, which resulted in my taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night, she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours the last time she was responsible for her and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present, but she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset but left eventually. A few hours later, she drove her parents' car into a tree and passed away. The friend, Jessie, came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears, she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws, but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought and she left after telling me that I was an asshole and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws who are adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife knew each other since they were kids, and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now, and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. Comments. Cause I can. Jessie's drama already got one person hit, and she's not done yet. User National Platypus. He should sue Jessie. She created a narrative that didn't exist and drove a woman who already was depressed to her death. The only reason I can see is that she was jealous of her or projecting her own marital problems onto her. Cortan. I hope OOP didn't let Jessie speak. What an awful, awful woman. She destroyed a marriage, made an already depressed woman feel even more stressed and upset. Her actions led said woman to having a mental break and dying, and she left a newborn without a mother. Absolutely horrendous. Even if a situation looks like it might be cheating, you don't dump that onto someone recovering from pregnancy and PPD. You support them until they're mentally well and ready to handle that information appropriately. User XL Pager. It's a blessing OOP was able to keep their child away from his wife and refused to his wife's unsupervised visitation request. She was clearly in deep psychosis at that stage, and with her being outside hospital, there wasn't anything anyone could do to help her see a different choice. Every time I read this post, my mind erases the ending because it's just so sad. I hate to say it, but the in-laws' lack of urgency in getting their daughter immediate inpatient care, them not watching her like a hawk, and allowing Jessie to speak at the funeral, all suggest they believed OOP had been unfaithful and didn't realize the extent of her mental deterioration. I really hope he has got the help and support he needs to get through this past year and is able to keep his daughter far, far away from Jessie. Second story, from Throwaway. Boyfriend woke me up at 2 a.m. to make him dinner. I made him leave instead. I became official with this guy a couple months ago. He was sweet, kind, funny, gorgeous, the usual stuff. Everything was fine. We'd stay at each other's places, have date nights, general relationship stuff. In short, no red flags. A couple beige ones here and there, but everyone has those. Then came the other night. He's currently having to pick up the slack at his job due to multiple people quitting. We decided to spend the weekend at my place, as his roommates can be quite loud, and he needed to concentrate on fixing a system at his job so he can remotely work. Friday is fine. We stay in, and in between his working, we do the usual couple stuff. Saturday comes, and something has gone wrong, and the stress is doubled, so he isn't eating anything I make, which is fine. I simply remind him there are leftovers in the fridge. By 11 p.m., he's still working, so I head to bed. I am then startled awake by him at 2 a.m., shaking me, telling me he's hungry now. Confused. I remind him about the leftovers and turn over to go back to sleep, but he gets grumpy and tells me I need to make him something fresh. Now. I'm honestly completely confused and so sleepy, while he rattles on about coconut shrimp or something. Still half asleep, I just stare at him as I try to work out what the heck is happening. I'm guessing my silence pissed him off, as he started having a go at me for not doing my duty as his girlfriend. That woke me up fully, and I told him to get out of my house. His attitude changed then, and he was apologizing, but I just repeated myself, and eventually he left the room. I followed him, picked up his stuff, put it into a bag, and once again told him to get out. He looked like a deer in headlights. He kept trying to say sorry and hug me, and it was only when I threw his car keys into his arms that he realized I was serious, and left. This was Sunday morning. It's now Monday night, and I still refuse to speak to him. He's tried calling and texting, but I'm honestly just annoyed and dumbfounded. I know I'll have to speak to him at some point, but I don't want to. He's an idiot. Comments. Hi, Coden. Any partner that does this sort of loyalty test immediately fails the not being a shitty person test. That's also not even loyalty. That's putting up with being massively disrespected. Someone isn't disloyal because they don't put up with shitty behavior. OOP's EX is either the kind of idiot that doesn't think things through, or the kind of idiot that tried exerting some control over OOP. But either way, their relationship status can be described the same way as the number of brain cells they have. Single. User TDDKai. It's its own loyalty test. If you impose a loyalty test on a partner, you failed. If it gets to the point where you need to test the partner, the relationship is dead. Just leave instead of playing head games. Afraid. Sense. My husband has woken me up in the dead of night twice. 1. Because there were gunshots outside our house. I am a super light sleeper, and the littlest sound normally wakes me up, so I didn't believe him and tried to go back to sleep. Till I saw the police lights through the blinds. Whoops. We no longer live in that neighborhood. 2. Because he heard a weird water rushing sound in his bathroom and, upon investigation, found a broken pipe spewing water into our basement. So that was fun to wake up to. He's nowhere near stupid enough to pull this with me. Hell, he won't even ask me to cook for him. He might ask what our dinner plan is. I normally cook because, frankly, we both vastly prefer my cooking, so I'd rather do it. If I say I don't want to cook, his response is, okay. The idea of a man bursting into my bedroom at 2 a.m. and screaming at me to cook makes me homicidal. User Campfire. Synconifers. My great-grandpa came home drunk in the wee hours with a friend in tow. He woke up my great-grandma and insisted that she cook breakfast for both of them. She did because she didn't want to wake the baby. He yelled at her that it wasn't any good. She clocked him in the head with the frying pan. His friend immediately tried to sober up and assured her the food was just fine. I do miss her. And would you believe after spending 65 years ignoring her, she died and suddenly she was the best thing that ever happened to him? Like, could you not have treated her better then? Next story, from Throa X Dramas. Ex-Fiancé wants to meet up after leaving me at the altar 4 years ago. Basically, 4 years ago, I, F29, was supposed to be getting married to my fiancé at the time, Jay. Everything was going perfect. I was in my dress, had my makeup on, and taken pictures with my bridesmaids. I was pretty much ready to walk down the aisle. when Jay's best man pulled me to the side and said Jay was gone. He had gotten into a car and left, and no one was able to get a hold of him. I came home to our apartment and all his stuff was gone. He's been pretty much a ghost ever since he left me, and I had to force myself to move on. I ended up going on our honeymoon with my best friends, which was the best decision ever, and then put myself in therapy to heal the horrible trust issues I now have. I haven't heard from him once. Until today. I guess he got back in contact with an old mutual friend who gave him my number. Jay texted me and said wants to meet up and apologize. He says he has a lot to explain to me about what happened that day. I'm torn. I swore Jay was a dead memory, but my curiosity and desire to get closure with him is pestering me. My current boyfriend supports me whatever I decide, and I feel out of respect to him and how wonderful he's been, I should ghost Jay. I'm very confused. I never expected to hear from Jay again. Update. Against most of the advice, I did meet up with Jay. As a lot of you said, it did not add any value to my life. Also, it was part of a 12-step program and he was making amends. We met up at a park and my boyfriend came with me. He sat off to the side while Jay and I talked. I actually feel stupider after meeting with him. There were a lot of things in our relationship that would have had me out the door if I paid more attention, and if he wasn't such a great liar. Basically, for the last year of our relationship, he was doing substances and cheating on me. He had been struggling with his sexuality for years, and it's not surprising it ended up this way now knowing the truth. His family are incredibly homophobic and horrible people. I wanted nothing to do with them when we were together, but he insisted on them being around, just for the big life events, like our wedding. The substances were something to get him through the day and act like he was in love with me when he was actually in love with someone else. He had met his boyfriend at work, and I had actually met him a few times when I'd drop off lunch for Jay. When our wedding approached, his boyfriend said he needed to choose, and Jay chose him. So he packed his bags up and pretended everything was great, until his boyfriend picked him up and they moved 2 towns over. I asked him if he was still with his boyfriend, and he said no. He thought he could quit the substances once he was free of his family and lying, but he couldn't. His boyfriend found out and left him. He kept going, getting high and hooking up with randoms. One of his regular hookups ended up overdosing while they were asleep in the same bed and died, and he realized he had to get sober. He apologized for not just being honest with me and leading me on like he did. He wished he could go back and be truthful because I would have been the most accepting of him being gay out of everyone. He said he missed me when he left because even though he didn't love me romantically, I was his best friend. It was a lot to take in. I told him, while I'm glad he's okay and is doing better, I'd prefer for us not to have any contact moving forward. But I do forgive him. He said he understood, and he was only in town for a few more days, and he'd be gone for good again. I'll admit, when I got home, I cried. My boyfriend held me and ordered me my favorite takeout. He's been really the best and didn't pressure me to talk about anything until I was ready. So if I got anything out of the worst day of my life, it's led me to who I'm with now. Comments. Reddit Skippy. I think, like OP, I wouldn't have been able to resist meeting with the ex. Damn, at least she knows. Next said, I think it depends. When you've successfully moved on, like OP has, it can just be reopening old wounds, or just not feel satisfying to know. An old friend who hurt me reached out for closure and spent a lot of the conversation trying to justify her actions. I got closure by realizing she hadn't changed, but it didn't feel satisfying. Kind of wish I blocked her number immediately. I'm a big believer that closure comes from within, although it's extremely impressive that OP moved on without contact in her circumstances. I get why she doesn't feel satisfied or like it was worth it. User Rango Throwaway. I had an ex who ghosted me, then called 3 weeks later to put the blame on me. Whatever. Several months later, this jackass is blowing up my phone, leaving messages that it's urgent for me to answer or call back. I was going to keep ignoring, but I started to worry that perhaps he had gotten diagnosed with an STD and wanted to give me a heads up. I finally called him back. The urgent news was that he found a new fancy pancake restaurant that he knew I'd absolutely love, and he needed to take me there and share with me the ridiculously amazing pancakes. I don't even care too much for pancakes. Jackass confirmed. Last story. From Throra Advice 12. I keep finding long hairs in my bathroom, which is strange because my husband is bald and I have a short pixie crop hairstyle. This started a few weeks ago. While cleaning the bathroom, I found a number of long hair strands over my bathroom wall by the shower. This struck me as very odd, because not only does my husband not have hair, I also wear a very cropped short hairstyle, so it's impossible for the strands I found to belong to either me or my husband. Confused, I washed them away but couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided not to mention it, but kept looking out for them. There seems to be a pattern that there's hairs appearing when I'm either at work or out for a longer time period. I feel like I'm going crazy, and feel like I shouldn't just immediately go to my husband cheating on me with a longer-haired woman. I asked my husband about it and he just shrugged, which makes me more paranoid, as surely this is something that's strange. So why is he so blasé about it? I'm starting to think he's playing it down to stop me from finding out the truth. It happened again 2 days ago, and I asked my husband again. He dismissed it, but this time admitted it's strange, but told me the only explanation is that they must be my hairs. They are not. And after saying so, now he'll just ignore me if I bring it up. I don't want to assume my husband is cheating on me and accuse him of such over something so ridiculous, but I'm driving myself into the ground trying to work out how the hairs have got there without my husband dismissing it as nothing. During lockdown, we haven't had any visitors that I know of, so can rule out his sister. Update: I ultimately decided against getting a secret camera set up because, ironically enough, I didn't want to betray my partner's trust, though part of me wanted to get one to squash any worries of someone living in my walls, as per some comments said. I did though plan to leave work early, which is something I've never done before. My boss allowed me to leave after a half day. Upon returning home, nothing seemed amiss. I was expecting another car on the drive or parked outside on the street. There was no other car I didn't recognize. Quietly letting myself in, I was immediately confused. In the hallway, there was a pair of shoes I didn't recognize. And not only that, they looked like men's shoes. Standing in the hallway trying to work out what to do, if I should sneak around or make my presence known. Before I could decide, my husband walked out of the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. By my husband's face, it was obvious he was surprised to see me. Playing along with naivete, I asked my husband how he could have known I was coming home early to make me tea. Expecting my husband to lie, he surprised me by sitting me down and explaining everything. At the beginning of lockdown, his friend, someone I'm not all that close with because only met once, was evicted, lost his job, and had been couch surfing. So for some days over the past couple of weeks, this guy has been traveling to our house and, with the acceptance of my husband, using our bathroom to freshen up to attend interviews. He was also borrowing shirts and suits from my husband. As it turns out, my husband's friend has long hair and a beard. So it turns out my husband isn't cheating on me, but was hiding the fact his long-haired friend was coming over to use our shower. After his shower, I ended up meeting Dave, and he turned out to be a very nice bloke, just down on his luck. I wished him the best for his socially distanced interview, and he went on his way. I asked my husband why he didn't just tell me, as I wouldn't have had a problem with it. Turns out he was worried about my reaction and me not liking his friend or approving of the situation. He also told me Dave was very embarrassed about the whole situation and didn't want people to know what he was having to do. I told my husband I was starting to believe he was cheating, and he was shocked, having not even considering those implications while attempting covering for his friend. I told him this whole thing was ridiculous, and even suggested his friend live with us until he's back on his feet. Funnily enough, my worst-case scenario, which was mentioned in the replies, was either a homeless man or woman living in my walls and sneakily using the shower. And though this seems to be half the case, I'm glad it wasn't a stranger as such that wasn't unwelcome, and someone that wasn't living in my walls. Comments: Jack's Whitehall. The husband gonna build an art studio later for Dave. Corfiz said, what I find hilarious is that he's still too lazy to just clean up after Dave. He wants to keep it a secret. The obvious solution would be to just scrub down the shower quickly to remove all long hairs, but that's just completely out of his realm of capabilities. Next said, it's more than strange. They both knew those hairs couldn't be hers, but he tried to make her believe they were. That's called gaslighting. Helping a friend is good, but this relationship is not all well. Penguin zombie. That's the biggest red flag to me. He prioritized keeping this a secret from his wife over his wife's peace of mind. The only reason you should have for keeping a secret from your spouse is if what you're hiding is something you plan on revealing to them at a later date, like a present or a surprise trip or something. Thank you from me and Jerry for watching. I hope you loved these stories. Don't forget to subscribe that you don't miss new videos. See you!